Hi, my name is Ron Boats and you are watching liveprog.
René Splinter started making music in the mid-80s and he released his first album called Almary. But shortly after that it became rather quiet around him and didn't put out much music until somewhere around 2007 when he contributed a track to a compilation album. From there on he picked up the music again and he started working on his second album called Realities. This album was released in 2010. Along the way he also contributed some tracks on various compilation albums and then we come to 2012. And that is the point where he released his third album called Singularities. And that is the album I have in this review for you and we have it right here. René Splinter Singularities. And we have the man himself. This album was my first acquaintance with the music of René Splinter, but I gotta say it was a very nice way of making acquaintance because I really enjoyed the album. I spent a lot of time listening to it and really enjoying it. And when I was listening to the album, I gotta say the general mood was really relaxing, really soothing, and that's kind of music I like. I mean, in stressful times like this and you play on an album such as this, very nice way to really calm down and relax. When I was listening, I really noticed especially the way the melodies stood out on this album because the melodies are really beautiful and well composed. A little more detail about the album. Let's just take a look at the track listing and pick out a couple of songs because there's a couple of songs that really tell something about the album and give you a general idea of what you can expect when you listen to Singularities. The title track, that is the longest track. The whole album has about 7 tracks and about an hour worth of music, and a quarter of that is taken up by the first track alone, because the first track, the title track, Singularities, clocks just over 15 minutes. When you listen to that first track, it really shows what an amazing composer but also amazing performer René Splinter is, because when he composes a song, when you listen to it, you feel he really builds up the song, he really moves in a certain direction, and somewhere about halfway, well not entirely, around 6 minutes, but this really beautiful sequence comes in and I really like that very much. And towards the end the song really moves to some sort of a big crescendo to end the track. I gotta say, very beautiful and amazing to listen to and a great opener for the album. I mean, alright, he opens on a very high note, with the longest track. And you have something to look forward to for the rest of the 6 tracks, because the other 6 tracks also have a lot of great music to offer. Something I noticed, and something that doesn't surprise me at all, of course, is that I really heard this 80s vibe, this 80s sound in the music. Now, when I say 80s sound, I don't mean the pop 80s, of course, because that's a whole different kind of thing, but the electronic music 80s, which is a very, popular era. A lot of great music was released then. We have, of course, the sort of the ghost of Tangerine Dream that you also find in this album, but it's not in the foreground. It's really somewhere in the back. You just hear hints of it. That's why I mentioned it's the ghost of Tangerine Dream. All in all, when we're talking about that, I mean, of course, original music is very hard to find these days, and especially also in electronic music, you have some really great names that inspire a lot of people. But listening to this album, I really say that René really composed original music. Very beautiful original tracks. And of course they have some influences of the music that probably he enjoys himself. But as I said, these are just hints, it's in the background. It is his music that you hear when you listen to the album. Another track that kind of stood out for me, and we think back that 80s sound, this time a bit of the poppy sound, which you find in the track called The Time Traveler. I really enjoyed it very much, that vibe it has, and the nice rhythm it has in it. And I was listening and it kind of reminded me a little bit of Jan Hammer, but think Miami Vice soundtrack, because, well, that's basically the only music I know from him. But that kind of influence I heard in that track, and well, for me, a reason to absolutely enjoy it. More tracks, we have more music, and there is more variety on this album. One of the reasons that I think this album is such a treat to listen to, because, as I said, René Splinter is a very fine composer. I like the way he created the songs and the kind of influences he brings, but also the different kinds of atmospheres he brings with it. Because I mentioned a couple of influences. I mentioned the Tangerine Dream, I mentioned the 80s sound, you know, the Jan Hammer thing, but there's more to be found in here. And one other influence that I also found, and it relates a little bit to the Jan Hammer thing, because the Miami Vice soundtrack was for TV, I have a feeling that René also included some you know, movie-like songs in it, some tracks that could very well fit on the soundtrack of a movie. And one such track is Timescapes. Why? Because I enjoy this mysterious emotion that it brings up, and when you listen to that track, well, it would fit perfectly on, for example, a science fiction film. A lot of this kind of music works very well with science fiction, and this track would very well would look great as part of a soundtrack to a movie. Well, when we're talking about standout tracks, a track that I really enjoy is probably one of my favorite tracks on this album. It's called Lemniscate, and very simple reason, it has a really hypnotic sequence in it. And I found that ever since I started listening to electronic music, these sequences, I really enjoy them. I really like it. I don't know why. It has some sort of an effect on me, and the same happened with this track. It's well mixed, it's well balanced in it, and well, that's just, you know, something you can't explain. It's just a feeling. And again, you know, I always wonder when I listen to an album, you know, why do I like this album? What makes it so special? In my opinion, and that is something you find in every review I do, for me, the emotion that the music, you know, evokes in you. The music needs to do something with you. But that song in particular stood out for me, and really, well, you know, made this connection with me. So, well done, René. Thank you for that track. But there is more, and we move on to another different kind of atmosphere, a different kind of emotion in the music, again showing the versatility of René Splinter, because if we come to track number 6, we're almost at the end, Babel, it has a total different sound. It's more classical orientated, because it's a very piano based song. And again, kudos to René for that music, because he's really a gifted player, and it's a really beautiful track with this, well, this classical atmosphere. And it doesn't end with that track, because it moves, it continues straight into the last track called The Lighthouse, and well, basically bringing the album to a very beautiful ending. You know how I feel about this album. It's no secret, I really enjoyed this album. For me, electronic music is still new. It's still a discovery. It's still a journey through music that I am not familiar with, and often, well, have a bit of a hard time describing, you know. I mean, when it comes to prog, I can tell you lots about it. But electronic music is still new for me. Nevertheless, it is music I very much enjoy, and an album such as this, from Rene Splinter, Singularities, should be enjoyed by many more people, because it is very beautiful music. And don't be scared away by the label electronic music, because this is just beautiful music. And of course, no, it's not rock, but I think a lot of people will enjoy this album. He has shown on Singularities that he's a very good and a very versatile composer, making really beautiful tracks with different atmospheres in it, with different sounds in it, with different instruments in it as well. As a performer, he's very good. So on the whole, you know, I can only say get a copy of this album. But what's more, April 6th, 2013 in Oorschot, and well, when this review comes out, it might be a little bit close, but he will be releasing his new album called New Ruins. And well, based on this, I gotta say I am really curious what that will be, because I will definitely keep an eye on his music, because I know what he can do, and I'm very well interested in seeing what will be the next thing he does. But regardless of that, I mean, if you are not familiar with electronic music, or if you are familiar with electronic music but you do not have this album, or you have not heard this album yet, then I can only advise you, you know, listen to it. Get a copy of it, groove.nl. Get a copy of it, because it is absolutely worth having. I think it is a very beautiful album, so well, that's my take on it. I hope you will enjoy this review, and I most certainly hope you will enjoy this album. Rene Splinter, Singularities.